What is it going to take to get the Mets back on track? Let's talk about it. Welcome aboard, everybody. Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you as we are back talking about the New York Mets, who right now stand at 2 games under 500. It has been over the last 3 weeks, and you don't need me to tell you this. We all know what's been going on over the last 3 weeks. It has been a total downward spiral for this Mets team for a while now. And this was a team that just a few weeks ago, in the middle of that road trip, in that road trip between L.A. and San Francisco and Oakland, things were looking pretty good. Things were looking really good. Mets were sitting there pretty at 14-7. Had taken the first 2 games against the Giants. They had just come off of winning 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, coming off of sweeping the Oakland A's. And ever since that point, it has been downhill for this Mets team as they can now no longer beat bad baseball teams, losing to a series to Washington. At home, no less. Obviously, struggling against the Atlanta Braves. No surprise there. They're the best team in the National League. Maybe even in baseball with the exception of the Rays. Then, on top of that, adding insult to injury, getting swept by Detroit, losing 2 out of 3 in disparaging fashion to the Colorado Rockies, and then last night's debacle against the Cincinnati Reds as the Mets lose 7-6. And we all know how that one played out with the controversial play. And here I'll just play it again for you. This is obviously the best angle right here. This is the best angle right here. This from the first base side. And you can clearly see Will Myers put his hand right in front of the baseball. You can see that again. I'll play for you again. Hand right in front of the baseball, knocks it away from Francisco Lindor. Was it a great throw? No, it was obviously not a great throw. But it was clearly interference. The umpires badly, and I mean badly, missed that call. Buck Showalter getting his 2 cents in. You can't blame Buck Showalter for getting himself tossed from this game because the last several weeks he has seen probably this team play its worst baseball since he has been the manager of this team. As right now they're a team that is struggling to find an identity right now. They have really no pitching to speak of. Their offense has been inconsistent. We've seen them be very good. We've seen them be very bad. And even last night, what I felt was for the Mets and for Buck Showalter, him getting ejected from that game, I think it was just the boiling over of everything that's been going on. And that was one reason why he got himself tossed in that game. And maybe even to give a little bit of juice to the sport club. And unfortunately for the Mets, it just wasn't enough as they fell, again, 7-6 to the Cincinnati Reds. So the Mets have now lost 12 of their last 15. 12 out of 15. This is a team that was expected to be a playoff team. This is a team that was expected to be a team that can compete for a division title. Is the season over? No, not in May. But it's starting to feel like a team that could spiral out of control, and there's various reasons for that. The biggest concern being obviously the pitching. It was my concern going into the year. It's my concern right now, and it's going to be my concern. I think it's going to be the concern of Met fans for the rest of this season. Max Scherzer, of course, being right now the biggest conundrum, as he is not only did we have the suspension for 10 games over the illegal substance on his hands, but now more injuries. Skipping the start yesterday because of neck spasms and concerns about his back and what's going on with Max Scherzer, because last year, towards the second half of the year, looked like he was starting to run out of gas. Of course, we saw that in the game against Atlanta at the end of the year last year. Then we saw it in the playoffs against San Diego. Didn't look anything like the pitcher the Mets saw in the first half of the year that year. And now this year, a 5.56 ERA for Scherzer, 2-2, really only one quality start all season so far, 14 earned runs in 22 2/3 innings. He's not the same guy right now. And the Mets need Max Scherzer to be the guy they thought they brought in here at the start of last season. And that guy is right now not coming here, and he's not healthy enough. Justin Verlander, one start, had an uneven start against Detroit, giving up the home run to ex-Met Javier Baez. He's going to start tonight in a game that the Mets must have. If the Mets are going to end this slump that they're in, they need somebody like Justin Verlander to step up and deliver a big game tonight against the Cincinnati Reds. But outside of those two guys, Kodai Senga has probably been the Mets' best starter, but he's been inconsistent. ERA has been around 3.5, sometimes even 4. He does walk a lot of guys. He does strike out a lot of guys, obviously with that forkball, but he does walk a lot of guys. So he's been madly inconsistent. And then you have Tyler McGill and David Peterson, and I just don't even know what to say of those two guys anymore. They just haven't been getting the job done. Obviously, the Mets need to get healthy. They need Scherzer to be healthy. They need, and I know Cookie Carrasco's on his way back. He had a rehab start the other day. They need him to get back and be healthy. And when he was pitching for the Mets at the start of the year, he was no great shakes either. Jose Quintana, I don't know who knows when we're going to see him in a Mets uniform right now this year. The thought was by midseason. We'll have to wait and see how that happens. But the Mets right now, their pitching staff has to concern you the most. It was one thing when we started the year and we knew, okay, no Edwin Diaz. What's this bullpen going to look like? And this bullpen right now has been stretched thin because nobody in the starting rotation can go deep. And that's a huge concern. Right now the Mets have given up 52 home runs. I believe that's one of the league leaders in home runs allowed. Last I heard, I think it was the league leader in home runs allowed. 4.82 ERA as a team. It's just not good. It's just not good. Where are the Mets going to get help? And you look at the top 30 prospects for the Mets. You know, Blade Tidwell is in high A. He's years away from being up here. Dominic Hamill is in double A, and you take a look at his numbers. Double A, I mean, they've been okay. 4.15 ERA, six starts, 5 starts, 4.15 ERA. He's been okay. You know, is he ready to make that jump? I don't think so. Kevin Ziegler, he's only in A ball. Mike Vassell is in double A, and you know, only again, he's done okay. I don't know if he's ready to make that jump right now to the majors. Joe Diaz, only in A ball. Jose Buto, we've seen him already. He's in Triple A. We already seen him this year. Was pretty good against the A's, but he does walk a lot of guys. He has walked 11 batters this year when he's made his 2 starts in the major leagues. And that's the thing. Where are the Mets going to go for help? Where are they going to go? Because right now, this is a team that's a $350 million juggernaut that has no pitching. And they've got to find some pitching as soon as they possibly can. And the only thing they can do right now, I want to say, look, make this trade, bring up this guy, call this player up. I don't know if you can do that. There's nothing you can do right now with the Mets as far as their pitching is concerned. It's now wait and see. Wait and hope. Hope that Max Scherzer is healthy enough when he makes his next scheduled start. Hope that Justin Verlander, turned the clock back a little bit to the last couple of years where he was with Houston. And, of course, with the Tigers as well. Hope that someone like Cookie Carrasco, when he gets back here, has that Steve Trachsel-esque turnaround, and all of a sudden his pitching lights out. Hope that Jose Quintana shows up at some point this year. Hoping for something to happen is, of course, a lot different from what we see on the field. And what we've seen on the field from the pitching staff has had a lot to be desired. And obviously, offensively, the fact that we're seeing Brett Baty as well as Francisco Alvarez get more opportunities, and both of them continue to deliver. Alvarez is starting to get hot. He now has 3 home runs. He's starting to show a little more power. His batting average has come up now to 241. Remember, he was on the interstate for a little while. Brett Baty is another player who's been getting some big hits in big spots. So those two guys, those 2 young players, are doing a nice job for the Mets. The problem for the Mets is a lot of their older players are having a hard time. Francisco Lindor's had a rough year this year. Terrible. 224 batting average. Pete Alonso, who at the start of the year looked like he was on an MVP tear, he's only hitting 237. That's it. Starling Marte has been the most frustrating of them all, hitting at 223. Only a home run and 8 RBIs. You got Mark Hanna, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. He's hitting 216. Last year, this was a team that relied on those kind of players, on Mark Hanna and Starling Marte, to really round out this lineup, especially Marte at the top of that order. And right now, outside of Baty, maybe Alvarez as well, Alonso for the occasional home run, the most reliable player for the Mets in their lineup at this moment, easily Brandon Nimmo. That's it. Even 300 hitter, gets on base all the time, gives you the occasional home run, scores a lot of runs, will drive in some guys, draw walks, will steal bases, does it all. Great defense in the outfield. He has been their Mets' best player. And that's why everyone keeps wondering, when are the Mets going to make that move to bring up Matt Vientos and or Ronnie Mauricio. Now, Mauricio's going to be a little more tricky because he's a natural shortstop. If you bring up Mauricio, are you putting him at a DH? Are you asking him to split time with McNeil? Are you putting McNeil in the outfield? Those are questions that would have to be answered for the Mets front office. So I think Mauricio is a little bit more trickier to bring up right now, even though his stats are really eye-popping. 336 batting average, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs. You'd love to see that right now in this lineup. But the guy that really just boggles the mind is Vientos. I mean, they brought him up a little bit last year, but in AAA, he's been fantastic. This year hitting 339. Already 11 home runs this year, 29 RBIs. Mets need to give him a call-up, but again, where are you going to put him? Natural infielder. The Mets have tried to move him to the outfield. Do you make him your DH? And Daniel Vogelbach, outside of home run the other day, has really struggled as well, swinging the bat. Do the Mets make that move and bring up Vientos? Do they release somebody like a Tommy Pham who's been nothing? I think they probably should, because right now they look like a team, considering the veteran talent they have on here, aging veteran talent they have on this team. It's starting to feel, I saw this on Twitter, it's also starting to feel a little bit like those early 2000s teams, like 2001, 2002, 2003, where the Mets had a lot of big, expensive contracts, especially 02 and 03, and they just underperformed. And right now, this team is underperforming, especially on the mound and offensively as well. This team has been in a funk for a while. But now when the Mets are sitting here at 17 and 19, they're now 8 back of Atlanta in first place in the NL East. It's not acceptable. It's unacceptable. And you're losing series to Washington and Detroit and to Cincinnati. That can't happen. It cannot happen if the Mets are going to be what they think they can be as a playoff team this year. So what is the best way to solve this right now? At the moment, there's not much you can do other than hope these guys can fight through it. I know that's not a big solution. Outside of bringing up Vientos, there's not much that else can change as far as trades are concerned. There's nothing. It's still too early in the season to make a big deal and make a big trade to get a big-time pitcher in here or get a big-time reliever in here, even though we all know that's what the Mets need. So, folks, leave your thoughts below. At least there's one good news for the Mets. The one good news for the Mets is this. The Mets are going to play the Philadelphia Phillies in London, England next year. And there's something to look forward to. Leave a like and subscribe here, folks. We'll talk to you next time tomorrow. NFL schedule release. We'll have a video on that as well tomorrow. Talk to you next time.